Yep.
Hi guys, to your September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition, and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us, or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us, and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards. It's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi. Say hi here to camera. That's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here. And this divining, it's all about observation, and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important. This is who I am. Without this, I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. From that point, you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hi Cancers, and welcome to your September monthly reading. So I'm a little bit angry with myself because I actually recorded everything just to realize that the sound was not on. So which is just reminding me, let me just kind of like start recording this on my phone just in case that something happens just yet again. So it kind of like really sucks. So what I'm going to be doing right now, I'm going to be actually following through what I did, because I don't believe in just like let's do a different reading, because the readings are very unique and picking up on the energy. So you're getting the Ten of Swords and Retreat as the cards that we really need to kind of like look into. So it's kind of like really interesting combination. Retreat is usually the card that talks about us needing to kind of like find some space for ourselves in our own thoughts. And Ten of Swords is kind of like a really interesting situation. In the other decks, it shows a person being stabbed with so many swords and kind of like really dealing with kind of like this whole aftermath. But Ten of Swords in itself is kind of like suggesting that the destructive situation that maybe you have been involved with has reached a complete climax, and that in the near future you will be able to think more clearly, right? So we'll be also looking in the other cards to see like which area is really affected. But this also could mean that you're still kind of like dealing with some kind of like ripple effect, kind of like leftovers of this difficult time. So there may be a sense of loss, hopelessness, and possibly sorrow. So it is kind of like one of those cards that kind of like feel that something has been unsuccessful and the dreams are shattered. But you know, I don't know if you're dealing with legal issues or some kind of like situation. It's something that, you know, you have to be prepared to have your facts straight, right? Career-wise, maybe implying that the job or maybe a social position may be in jeopardy. It sometimes even suggests separation or severance of ties with the relationship. And that kind of combines with that Retreat card, where maybe there was like something like chips has fallen and we're kind of like really wondering kind of like where to go. So I really think it's going to be for you at this stage to be cautious when you are undertaking any new venture at this time, particularly if you're dealing with people who you don't know well or not at all. So new dating, everybody looks promising until you get to know them, right? So it's going to be some kind of like distrust. It could be some kind of suspicion as well that is going on. So these feelings within you may be warranted, so look closely at all avenues from all angles and only proceed if you feel there's the right thing to do for you. So let's see what we can do with the Safi Saf, because she was like hanging around here reading forever. So let's kind of like, at least what we can do like on the replay, I know at which point to go. But I'm pointing here out in a card that the day is showing up and new hope is showing up. So it's really important to kind of like see that as well. And Safi being here, she was like really here for a while, to a point that I really had to kind of like talk to her and stop the video recording to kind of like move into the next level, because she just like didn't let go. And it kept telling me, hey, you guys, you really need some kind of like care for yourself. You really maybe want or need friends. You need a hug. You need this kind of like soft place to fall, right? It's kind of like weird. She almost looks green in this color scheme. She's actually blue. So let's move to the fact where she did allow me to put the cards on the table. In this magic, so we already have the cards on the table. So let's kind of like see the past. Let your friends help you, just as I was telling you in the introduction. Like maybe you have already figured it out that you have to have that soft place, you have to have somebody who understands you, but maybe you're feeling at the stage that nobody understands you. This Four of Cups card is kind of like telling about rejecting anything that comes your way. It's sort of like it usually happens with depression as well. But you also have the Eight of Pentacles and you have the High Priestess reversed. This kind of indicates that you really were not seeing all this kind of like red flags that needed to happen, right? You see this card from the bottom of the deck. If you notice, I put it on the basically base card here by mistake. It was kind of like really interesting, but also crucial, because you have to watch the other stuff that you do during the reading, because they actually do become important. So I don't know at which point I'm going to realize, oops, I did that and draw the card, but it's kind of interestingly, there you go, the card that kind of comes out. It was very important because you got the Justice card. Justice is a karma card, and it came right on top, release your ex kind of a card. And it was sort of like a big turbulence that I'm picking up from some of you, or most of you, let's put it that way. And the turbulence really was there for a reason, that you kind of like had to explore different kind of like levels of your personality, and that kind of like that was the lesson. So karma cards coming in, they're telling you, hey, you know what, you are needing to resolve this thing. And this baggage that we are carrying around, as I was showing you, is kind of like really important to kind of shed, because we carry it, we go into new relationships, we still have it, but somehow we expect the other person is going to pick them up. And no, it is nobody else's job but ours, and we really need to resolve this. In the core of the reading here, and this is where I'm seeing the flavor of the Ten of Swords that you got, you're having here separation, and then there is like this Knight of Wands, and this knight is fun, but this knight will call you at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you know, you're going to be the last choice, and only the choice if nobody else is there. But when they're with you, they are going to kind of like try to mask that. They're really good at masking things, and it's going to be lots of things that kind of like can set you off. But you kind of like need to understand that this person is not there to stay, and there is like the separation looming, or they kind of just dropped you like a hot potato. It's interestingly that Three of Pentacles also showed up, because when I was shuffling these cards, I sort of like had visions of some cards. I had the World reversed, I had this Three of Pentacles reversed, and I had, I believe it was Knight of Swords reversed. So this Three of Pentacles showing up is saying somebody really was not here in this kind of like team. It was like not the two of you, it was just like one person and their needs. And look at that, this is the card that talks about that indecent behavior, kind of like somebody who definitely knows the right from wrong, but they're kind of like doing this in the wrong way, right? It's bad intentions, and somebody who is just really not good, really. But then what is crossing here is, and I'm trying to see, that's right, love yourself first. It's telling you that this karmic shift, the karmic lesson, because you see you're going from this 10 to 1, is this Magician that you're getting here. Magician means, well, you kind of like, looks like the only way is up for you at this stage, right? The Magician means, hey, you know what, you already have all the elements to create your own basically happiness, to kind of create your own kind of like life for yourself. Magician is a very powerful card as well, where it's kind of like really telling us to kind of like really set our goals, and you can set your goals as high as you want, kind of like, because kind of like you're going in this kind of like new direction. And I'm seeing these connections with all these ones and tens that you have. There is like, I see 10 is there, 10 is here, there is 1, and it's kind of like clearly showing up that there is like this shift that is happening. So usually after 10s you get aces, which also have that flavor of 1, and that's kind of like this new beginning, a leadership. So you at this stage are doing a very heavy duty leadership lesson, where you need to be a leader for yourself. You have to be your biggest kind of like cheer have to be done by you, right? So it is kind of like really, really important to absorb this lesson, and this kind of like permeated throughout your entire reading that I have seen this. Love yourself first, love yourself first. So let's clarify. Whoa, Nine of Swords. Interestingly enough, that's the card for tomorrow. It's that card of distress. It's the card of us wondering about the direction, and voila, here is like a 9 and 1. Perfect. Now this is really interesting. That's where I had my little speech. Look at this, 9 1 1. So it's kind of like, again, the energy of 11. It's again this energy of healing. So that's very important, is coming here, especially in addition with Love Yourself First card, because we are in a year number 11, and we are in the 9th month of this year. So 9 month is very crucial, because in the 9th month, the vibration is like the purest vibration of the year is in the 9th month. So year number 11, month number 11. So think about this like the first, which we did have this live reading. So check it out. On this live reading I was really mentioning that energies of 111. And also check how actually even my cat actually pointed at a card that she wants me to draw. So that's, you can spectacular, that intuitive thing that it doesn't matter if you're a human, cat, or what else. Now, that energy is coming through to you with telling you, look, you need to shed all this kind of stressors and things coming through all the sides for you. And there we have like the assistant coming again on that particular thought. And we really need to focus more to where we are heading and why we are heading there. So here we had quite a few minutes of her again assisting, but you need to read everything that is happening, not only the cards. So you're reading the cards, but you know, a tornado is around, or volcano, kind of like everything has to be kind of like taken in a context. Again, it's coming back, this nurturing energy, that somebody comes and check you out, that you're kind of like really willing and capable. Look, she's just kind of licking herself to kind of like lick your wounds and self-nurture. So you deserve love. It's just another thing. You wanted love probably from one person who was too much in love with what they present to themselves in their own head. And understanding that people are people, they're going to have these kind of ideas, they're juggling, and they really don't care how this is affecting you. That doesn't mean that you are not lovable. Quite the opposite. You need to understand who is the person who stays and who is the person who goes. It's kind of like make this like three big things. And you know, I'm not going to take a person who's cheating or who's not transparent, but you have to stick to it. If people do it, you have to cut the cord and you have to let them go. And I know this is tough, but that's the way it is. And here, look, you have like this 5 of Wands, which is basically talking about establishing boundaries in relationships. Boundaries are really, really important, and it's like never stopping process. It's not like I have to do that and then I get married and I'm fine. No, it keeps going until the day you die. And of course, the less turbulent relationships are going to have less of these things that need to happen, but it's going to continuously last. If you do not set boundaries, people will be walking over you anytime they want. And that self-respect is really important, because it actually not only helps you feel strength inside of yourself, but actually become more attractive by doing that. So this is kind of like one of the bigger lessons that basically is going to be here for you for this month. You see the little mousey here on the bottom is the key. The mouse is going to get away. The whole point is something's lost. So also be careful how you're setting these boundaries. Don't lose yourself in petty things. Kind of like look in the big kind of like things that you really need to address. So the very next thing here that I'm seeing and I'm going to pick up is like this 3 of Swords. So you notice that I skipped that Judgment card over there, and this is because I've seen here heart-to-heart conversations. And we see this like 3 of Swords. That's the ouch card. Especially this 3 of Swords or 10 of Swords come individually in the reading. In your case, came together. So it is really telling me that some of you are really going through this like depths of despair and feeling rejected. And very likely there are quite a few of you who've been going through this turmoil of the third-party relationships. See, this kind of like combination is kind of like the combination that can be very painful. But guess what? Pain is existing for a reason. People who don't feel pain are actually in a big danger. Yeah, go and Google it, because pain is something that tells us do not go there. So if you still kind of like crave this person, you have to ask yourself why. And there you go. Remember how I told you I kind of like had this kind of like images of cards coming as I was shuffling, but instead of the Knight of Swords, we are getting here Queen of Swords reversed. She kind of has a tendency to cut anything off, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. You are going to say no more. I'm going to kind of have a different approach. And very much that sentence, that statement, will be opening this kind of gateway, because you're having that Five of Pentacles reversed, meaning not feeling excluded or making that determination that you will not feel excluded at all. And this is kind of like really important, because you might actually have a completely different comprehension of the relationships you really want. This entire month for you seemingly is going to be like that. So let's check this one first, calling in your soulmate. So it looks like it's going to be one singular decision that is going to have unbelievable ripple effect, because you're getting this Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands is in the other decks shown as a lawyer. So you're going to say, look, yeah, I know emotions are taking me there. You see that hope, the Tray of Hope? There it is. You are like almost like riding that wave. Imagine you are like, I mean, the Ten of Swords is like, think about it. It was this one scene, I believe, with Angelina Jolie. What was it? Thumb Rider, where she just, in the beginning and the opening scene, she is ending up somewhere in the depth of the ocean, and she knows that she will die because she was so deep that she cannot make it to the surface. So she kind of cuts her biceps to start to bleed, and the shark is attracted. So she is, of course, it's in the movie, don't try it in the real life, please. So she is grabbing the fin of the shark and kind of riding to the surface, and that's how she saves herself. So to that point, something severing like that, something that can be painful in order to get somewhere, right, is this Queen of Wands. It's kind of like going in this direction and saying, wait a minute, if I spend more time with this person, I am spending less time in trying to find somebody who is actually adequate for me, who is going to treat me like this softness. Safi coming here is really important. Now you're getting this Empress, but it's reversed, and you're getting Three of Cups. The Empress reversed is talking about us maybe feeling a little clingy, and you need to kind of work on that. This also can be Mother card, and it could be that they're like that you're thinking to yourself, cat, I also have life, and there are lots of issues. And you see, this is the card of the friendship. It's saying, look, I really don't care what your life is. Friends are important, and if you didn't shift your priorities in that order, you have to. You are first, then your issues are second, and your friends are third. It's kind of like coming here very, very clearly that you really need to spend some time on your own, figuring out things you want, and also be able to go out and reach to your friends and reach kind of like going in this new direction. And voila, in your environment, you're getting this King of Pentacles and Make the Effort card. Now, this is kind of like wonderful. You see, King of Pentacles, and we did have this like new start over there. We did have like this separation. So sometimes it doesn't happen like that, but it doesn't happen because we are more focused on our pain. This fellow over here, or it could be male or female, is somebody who is extremely reliable and who actually is probably well established, who understands the value of work and even more so value of money, and who is willing to share it. So it's kind of like ideal partner for marriage. So somebody like this appearing is also not somebody flashy, because this Queen of Wands that looks like in that kind of like mode is like somebody who can show a little bit of skin and being super sexy. But this person is more or less kind of slow and steady wins the race. For example, Queen of Wands would show the skin, but King of Pentacles is the person who is going to be in a baggy clothes. It doesn't mean they're more or less kind of attractive. Interestingly, I'm getting Eight of Swords, and there is like this World Reverse card, which is also the card that I got, and that's again talking about something karmic, but a karmic cycle that didn't finish. Now, Eight of Swords card is really talking about this person is also going through some issues of his or her own. It could be that something hasn't been finished. Maybe you're going to meet somebody who is married. Maybe you're going to meet somebody who is married and who is kind of like going through a whole bunch of sorting things out for themselves. So it's actually perfect, because it really says, look, do not jump into this relationship, but this person is dealing with some kind of like crap on their own, which kind of like it's almost like that survival kind of like groups, AA, where you meet people who are kind of going through similar stuff, and it could be that something like that is what you guys will have in common, that you maybe is going to find a soft place to fall. However, I do have to tell you that this person, and this was with me, shifting after convincing Safi to kind of leave us alone, but this person could be the person who will be actually really there for you in the future, because it is kind of like really important possibility for you. So let's now move into your hopes and fears, because this is kind of like putting everything in perspective, right? You're kind of like dealing with this possible person coming in your life, but it's kind of like a person who is just simply more or less sharing their experiences with you. And it could be a coworker, because ultimately that can be work hard, or somebody you know through the services that you are kind of gathering, etc. But you're having this hangman card over here, and keep an open mind kind of like card below that. The hangman is ultimately card of sacrifice. It kind of like represented this Norwegian god Odin, who kind of like, I think was like very much like Jesus. I think something it was like their tree, something world tree, which was their interpretation of the tree of life, and he was also kind of like being pinned to this tree with the spears, sort of like similar to Jesus' story, right? And he was suspended there for 9 days, but he kind of like wanted that because he wanted to get this bigger understanding of his own people. And the 9th day, he kind of like seen the shadows in the grass, and those shadows were runes. And the runes, and that's the God telling, like, these runes I can interpret now, because I'm understanding this entire scope, what they mean. So see, runes for the Nordic people were the same as astrology for us somewhere like in the West. So this card is definitely talking about its sacrifice, and kind of like needing to go through something that is really not something you would regularly do, but you're doing that because you really want to reach some kind of like higher understanding of you and of the other people. So let's clarify. Two of Swords reversed, and again it's like the tightrope. It's like kind of the sacrifice, like maybe you're questioning everything you're doing and even the sacrifice. And there is like 3 of Wands, and this is kind of like also very powerful. So 3 of Wands is like my cards of ships, friendships, relationships. It's again telling you, take this month off, allow people to come in your life, but you know, this is a card of friendships, relationships, right? You see the ships, partnerships. You don't have to make this decision. You can simply just, you are like water sign, go with that flow, right? And kind of like allow yourself kind of like that direction. And here you have the 10 of Cups, but also you have unrequited love. So good news and bad news. Bad news is like if something is obviously not working out, we see that. And here you go, 9 of Wands, and also the Strength reversed. So you're completely clear that something can't bring you that happiness, that rainbow, that family, those hugs. Is just like unfortunately not there. And that's the kind of unrequited part, because you really wanted it for yourself. But good news is that you are totally understanding what you want for yourself, and you're not willing to fight anymore for people who are not deserving, no matter how much you really want it. Because the Strength card is saying, well, if somebody's not committing to you, then what this makes you that you are their option and they are your first choice. You kind of like this whole simple concept, you're like kind of like taking this to the next level and fully understanding it. So Cancer, this is a general reading. Understand this, that in this reading you need to also check your ascendant and you need to check your moon sign, so that way you get puzzles. Nothing really beats private reading. So also to seal this reading, I'm going to pull one more card from the enchanted map thing. But everything that I see so far, I do have to tell you, is that there is somebody else coming in your life, knocking on your door. You need to open yourself to friendships, not to jump from one frying pan to another. And quite frankly, I don't think emotionally you're capable. The clear lesson and clear messages here that you need to reclaim yourself. Maybe, you know, the legs kind of like fallen off that old chair. Maybe the screws are not there, but you know, a little bit of, you know, WD-40 and a kind of like a crafty screwdriver can put things together. And kind of like seeing that things can happen is kind of giving us zest of moving forward. So let's kind of like go through kind of like shuffling these cards and kind of like really seal this reading. And guys, if you haven't, please subscribe to my channel. And it's kind of like important you get this, like, I mean, live notifications, and coming on live these days can actually win you 15-minute reading with me. So let's focus. Let's see what card really wants to come out to kind of like seal the reading. And you receive Field of Dreams. This is what it says. Your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are always engaging the vast field of pure potential. This is the perfect time to harness the field of vast potential not yet realized in your life. Great abundance is yours if you're willing to do the work alongside the gentle gardener. Be clear about your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and concentrate on your best life regardless of the temporary outer conditions imposed upon you by the greater world, which has its own story to tell. You have a basket full of seeds that are quite powerful, for your talents are divinely inspired and will indeed lead to a greater harvest to be shared with others. You will reap what you have sown. Dream big, dream beautiful, take action, and tend to the garden of your life, and experience the extraordinary. So my dear Cancers, so it seems to me that, you know, the damage here, this karmic lesson is that you need to put yourself in the spin of life again. You need to energize. You need to understand your own value, your own sense of mission, your own sense of power. And I know sometimes it's a hurtful lesson to walk away from somebody, but you know what is more hurtful? That you are not betting on you, that you are like walking away from you and caving into somebody else. So I really hope this helps, guys, and I really hope this kind of positioning will be able to help you heal through this month. And your comments will be absolutely great, because I really want to know what is about this karma and if this lesson is resolved. So my dear Cancer, until the next time, I love you.